seen the latest edition? I suppose you have. I suppose you feel pretty much as I do about it. Awful, isn't it? The headlines, I mean. Death, destruction, upheaval, unrest. It makes you wonder what the world's coming to. Yes, sir. What's the world coming to? Men's souls wrestle with the thought of tomorrow. And today is the eve of tomorrow. Can I face it with confidence? I suppose you've asked yourselves that question too. Can I face tomorrow with confidence? No man can tell what tomorrow may bring. But I'm not worrying. You know why? Well, a long time ago, almost 40 years it is now, I hired a man to do my worrying for me.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Makes you want to go off someplace
And bury your head like an ostrich.
This is no laughing matter, Jim. All those headlines. I don't know what to think. I'm worried, I tell you.
You've been worried about something as long as I've known you.
But this is different.
Yes, and each new worry has always been different. Why, you worried about the lean years of the Depression. You worried about the big years of the 20s. You
But
worried...
all I know is that this is different. Jim, we'll never survive this war.
That's what you said back in 1917. But we did survive, didn't we, Ellie?
But I'm talking about now. Now, all I can see is chaos and confusion and panic.
Oh, that's a good old word. There was a panic. Oh, years and years ago. That's before you came with us, Ellie.
That was before you could afford a secretary.
You know, Larry here was all against my hiring you.
I've suspected as much these 30 years.
Yeah, he didn't think you'd stay 3 months.
He didn't think you'd be in business 3 months.
This is no time to go digging around in the past for laughs.
I'm not digging around for laughs, Larry. I'm digging for confidence to face the future.
Future.
When I think of the future, I think of this business of mine. A long time ago, I hitched my wagon to a star. There was a drink, pure and wholesome, delicious to taste, refreshing. And they trademarked it Coca-Cola. I obtained the right to bottle Coca-Cola. I became a bottler of Coca-Cola. I still am. We've just put up a new plant here in my town. A new plant right up on Main Street. And people going by can see how clean and careful we bottle their favorite drink. Sometimes they stop in for a closer look at how we do things. This business of mine is a community affair. My bottling operation, well, it isn't the biggest in the country, but then it isn't the smallest. As bottlers go, I'm just somewhere in between, I guess. My business is kind of like my town. A town still small enough to protest turning the park into a parking lot. A town still small enough to respect the old trees along Main Street. One of those places too small to be a city and too big to be a village. Just a town. Just somewhere in that nice middle ground. That's me and my business, too. When I think of the future, I think of the men and machines and friends and ideas and philosophy and spirit that have brought Coca-Cola where it is today. Today seems a clutter of confusion. But maybe if we back away from it, step by step, and see from whence we came, it'll help us to see where we're going. All our yesterdays met the trials of the times, and our last big trial was called the Depression. Now, if you go back a couple of years, you'll find us going over the plans for this new plant. Larry and Ellie and Ben. Ben is our sales manager.
And this space here is going to be the meeting room, where our salesmen get together for conference.
Show me where my office is going to be.
Well, let's see now.
It was our new home, you see. Our new home. A business is like a family, if you know what I mean. And we were all happy and excited going over those plans. That is, we all were except Larry.
Mr. Larrabee, here's where our new office is going to be. Look.
I don't want to look. I don't want any part of this. Do you realize this country has just witnessed the greatest crash and the greatest depression?
We haven't done so bad.
We've been lucky, that's all.
It was something more than luck, Larry.
Well, whatever it was, we're going to risk that and everything else building this new plant.
But we need this new plant.
I don't see why. We've come a long way down here on Pine Street.
And we'll come a lot further up on Main Street.
But right now is hardly the time to go sinking a lot of money into...
Right now isn't what we're building for. It's the future.
The future. You talk just like Jim Wesley. All he thinks about is tomorrow. Always tomorrow.
That's right. And it was that kind of thinking, as much as your lady luck, that helped us lick the Depression.
Well, I don't see it.
It's quite simple. When you think of tomorrow, you think of getting more and more people to drink Coca-Cola. That's our job. Well, you bear down, you press, you push, you put out effort, and you get results. That's how we licked the Depression, Larry. And we licked it so well that now we've got to build this new plant to take care of the more and more, and still more, that's tomorrow.
That's our sales manager. And he's absolutely right about how we licked the Depression. I remember once during those years, I walked into a place of business and...
Oh, good morning, Mr. Westlake.
Got an order blank there?
Why, sure.
I want to buy 4 new trucks.
What?
I haven't got any old ones to turn in either. Now, the reason I went out and bought those 4 trucks was...
I suppose you think I'm hipped on this idea of calling so often on the dealers.
Go on, Ben. Speak your piece.
All right. Our job is to sell more Coca-Cola. Always more and more. Where do we sell Coca-Cola? In these spots, Jim. These spots marked on the map. These are dealer stores, places where people spend their nickels for Coca-Cola.
So what?
So, if we're going to get more people to spend more nickels at these spots, our salesmen have got to spend more time there. They've got to have the time to do a complete merchandising job. That means more men and more trucks.
Larry, why didn't you say so in the first place? Oh, Larry, I've never been afraid to put out, have I?
Did you call me, Jim?
Get ready to put some more men on the payroll.
More men?
I'm going out and buy 4 new trucks.
But, Jim, there's a depression.
So there is a depression, so you run along and worry about it. Ben and I'll knock the pants off it.
Hi there, fellas.
Hiya, Sam.
Found a job yet?
Not yet.
Well, times is tough, all right.
Yeah, I'll say. 2 bottles of Coca-Cola.
He'll pay for 'em.
None of that now. I'll match you.
Lady Luck. Larry's always talking about it. Well, in one respect, we were lucky in the way we rode out of the Depression. Our Lady Luck was Coca-Cola. A bottle of Coca-Cola is just a little thing. It costs just a little, yet it's truly one of the pleasant things of life. People enjoy stopping at the bright red coolers for an ice-cold bottle of Coca-Cola. Time out for refreshment, enjoyment, sociability. The pause that refreshes, we say. And the price, 5 cents, puts it within the reach of everybody. An awful lot of nickels rolled in during those Depression years. Maybe it's because people had more nickels to spend those years than anything else.
Morning, Sam.
Hello there, Steve.
Well, how's the new cooler working out?
Oh, fine, fine. Things a regular ad sitting out there.
I'll say it is. You're going to need an extra case.
Well, I don't know, Steve.
Well, of course, I'll be back on Thursday, but we'd better play it safe.
Okay, Steve. You're the doctor.
Okay.
So long, Sam. So long. Come back soon.
You bet. Hey, how's your dad these days?
Oh, all right, I guess. Only trouble is he won't stay retired.
Still comes down to the store, does he?
Yeah. In and out 2 or 3 times every day. It's awfully hard for him to learn to take it easy. Especially after he's been on the old harness so many years.
The future of Coca-Cola, the getting of more and more people to drink Coca-Cola, is in the dealer's hands. We sink or swim, slump or succeed by the way he feels about Coca-Cola, because he holds forth free spokesman at the places where people spend their nickels. We must thank our dealers, folks like Sam, for helping us through the Depression. And we must thank our salesmen, boys like Steve, who did a merchandising job out on the routes. Merchandising, that's a pretty highfalutin word. But in plain, everyday English, it means helping the dealers sell what you sell them. Helping the dealers. That's what Ben wanted to give the boys on the routes more time to do. It was giving the boys time to put out effort at the places where effort counts most that helped us lick the Depression.
Now you sit right down here. And don't you touch anything.
All right, Mama.
Hello, Mary. Why, what's the matter?
Nothing. I'm just sitting here waiting for my mother.
How about a bottle of Coca-Cola?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Tompkins.
Hello, Dad.
Well, I thought you'd retired, Mr. Tompkins.
I'm trying to. It's pretty hard, you know. I've spent most of the years of my life in this store here.
The real reason you can't retire is you don't think I can run the business.
Of course I think you can run it. Why shouldn't I? Didn't I train you?
Didn't I train you? You know, that's just the way I feel about my boys. I feel if they can go out on the routes and do a good job, well, it's because I showed them the ropes. Of course, I know this isn't true. Not literally. Ben Hawley is the sales side of my business. He handles the training. But I trained Ben. And I signed up for the films and records that have been so important a part of our training program. I remember the day our first meeting came.
You don't expect the boys to sit around and look at a lot of pictures, do you?
This program is more than just a lot of pictures, Larry. It's a training program. Why, if we expect the men to go out and do a better job on the routes, we've got to show them how to do a better job. We've got to help our salesmen to help our dealers. One trained man, one salesman, is worth more than 10 delivery men. And the answer to this depression is men, M-E-N.
Is that what they told you in Atlanta?
No, that isn't what they told me in Atlanta. Larry was mad at Atlanta all that year. You see, that year, the bottlers of Coca-Cola had a convention there.
You know, with the banks closing and all, I wasn't so sure we'd have this convention.
We'll lick this depression. Sure we will.
Bank holiday or no bank holiday?
What do you think of this new advertising campaign, Jim?
No, it's something, I'll tell you.
We're putting out more advertising than ever before. This year. Now.
Now's the time to put out. The hill ahead looks steep. Looks like it'll be hard going to make the grade. But I'll tell you this. If we get a bigger motor, we'll climb that old hill in high. You've got to give to get. You've got to put out. Not just money, that's easy, especially when you've got it, but you've got to put out in time and effort and friendliness, too. Helpfulness. That's the way we'll lick this depression.
Read all about the bank holiday proclamation. Extra, get your late paper. Read all about it. Read all about the bank holiday.
Dear,
Extra.
oh, dear,
Get
I
your
don't
late
know what the
paper.
world's
Extra.
coming to.
Just a minute, folks. Oh, here's Mr. Peyton.
When does the bank open?
When do we get our money?
I'm sorry. All I know is we got an order to close the bank. Why, I don't know any more than just what you can read in the papers.
Extra, bank holiday. Extra, read all about it. Extra, get your late paper.
Headlines. Blaring, scaring headlines. We faced them in the past. Yes, we faced them in the past.
I've been connected with some big deals in my time, but this is the biggest I've ever run into.
Hurry up, honey. We'll be late for the dance.
I saw you duck out on the party, Jim.
I just came up here to listen to our radio program. We've come a long way in our advertising.
You've come a long way in your business. Why, I remember the time when you used to run around with a horse and wagon selling Coca-Cola.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that past. I always do when I want to get a line on the future.
I hope you've been thinking about that little proposition we talked about the other day.
You know, life's funny, Pate. When I was poor and running around with that horse and wagon, I had to come to you begging for a loan. Now I'm running around a golf course. You're running after me.
Well, I'm sorry about that loan, Jim. But things are different now. These are big years. You ought to spread out, put some money in some other things. Take advantage of your opportunity.
Up to now, my opportunity has been with Coca-Cola. I figure it still is. I figure that's the place for me to spread out. Look, Pate, in the old days, you were a pioneer, I know. You were young and you were filled with courage, daring, alertness, going and doing. But those days are over, Jim. Now you're a big man. Now you're a success. Now I should grow old with prominence and prosperity?
No, Jim.
Now lethargy should set in? Now the beam should broaden? Now barnacles accumulate?
No, Jim, no.
That's just what I figure. Why, every man is a pioneer in his youth. It's natural. Well, I want to be one in my middle age. I want to be one until they carry me off someplace and plant sod on top of me. Why does everybody think that pioneering is the monopoly of youth and yesterday? Why, I'm 10 times the pioneer I was 20 years ago. I'm 10 times the man. My business has grown, and I've grown with it. And I want to keep on growing. These are big years, Pate. But I hope they're not too big for me.
I'm out for Coca-Cola.
Boy, oh boy.
What a wonderful idea, Helen, to serve Coca-Cola at home.
They're selling it in cartons now.
Cartons?
Yes, 6 bottles in a little pasteboard container.
We buy 2 or 3 of them every week.
Business was good in the 20s. More and more people came to enjoy the pause that refreshes. Business was good, and we aimed to keep it good. Well, Ellie,
Yes, Mr. Wesley?
has Ben come in yet?
Yes, he's checking in his cash.
Ask him to stop in and see me, will you, please?
Yes, sir.
You wanted to see me?
Come in, come in. Sit down, Ben. How long have you been working for me?
Oh, almost 7 years.
You like your job?
Yes, sir.
That's too bad. You're through with that job, Ben. You're through driving a truck. You're fired.
But just a minute,
Here's
Mr.
the
Wesley.
daily sales report.
Don't give it to me.
Don't get... Well, Jim, the daily sales report.
Give it to our new sales manager.
New sales manager?
Mm-hmm.
What are you talking about?
Ben's through driving a truck. From now on, he's going to head up the sales side of this business.
Well, what are you going to do, Jim? Retire?
Oh, no, Larry. It's just that I've been leaning pretty heavily towards production these past few years. Now I've got a man to supplement me on sales.
But if Ben isn't going to be driving the truck anymore, we'll have to...
Hire a new man to take his place.
But that means extra salary.
Don't you worry about the extra salary. I'll take care of that in extra sales.
Oh, dear. I can see right now you're going to be worse than Jim Wesley.
He means you're going to be better than Jim Wesley.
Thank you, Jim. But I'll have to go a long way to do that.
Go on now, beat it. It's hard to grow up and share your job, especially when you've started out as the whole shebang. It's hard to realize there aren't arms and legs enough on one man to manage a continued growth.
Mom! Oh, Mom, I want a bottle of Coca-Cola.
No, Sonny. No, you don't.
Yes, I do. I want a bottle of Coca-Cola.
Sonny?
I want a bottle of Coca-Cola.
But it wouldn't be cold here. You know it won't taste good if it isn't cold.
We always serve it cold, Mrs. Parker.
Oh, I know your sign says that. But you can't believe advertising.
You can believe that advertising, Mrs. Parker. We've got this contraption here to back it up.
What is it, a washing machine?
No, ma'am, no. That's a cooler for Coca-Cola.
A cooler for Coca-Cola?
Yes, ma'am. Just feel how cold that bottle is.
Well, I declare.
I want a bottle of Coca-Cola.
Of course you do, and I want one, too.
Dad, I think I'm getting something.
Is Sam still fooling with that wireless set?
Yes, he ain't worth his salt for helping out in the store these days.
Do you think that invention will ever amount to anything?
Well, you never can tell. Boy just in here said he got New York last night.
New York City?
That's what he said.
Well, I don't believe it. Why, you can hardly hear New York City on the telephone.
Hello, Mr. Tompkins.
Hello, boys.
2 bottles of Coca-Cola.
Sam, there's customers out here.
Oh.
Hi there, fellas. Howdy.
Hi.
2 bottles of Coca-Cola coming up.
Are they cold?
Ice cold. That's the way we always serve them.
Ice cold. That's the way folks like Coca-Cola. That's the way we advertised Coca-Cola would be served to folks. Our advertising made customers for Coca-Cola a promise, and the cooler made sure we kept that promise. The cooler was the answer to an obligation to the people who spend their nickels for Coca-Cola. Those were big years. And we, who hitched our wagons to Coca-Cola, tried to foresee and direct a continued growth to yet bigger years. We built a heritage for the future by meeting our obligations to the years at hand. Now, there's a lot that meets the eye in this business of Coca-Cola, but when you boil it all down, it's just two things. One, getting a good product. Two, getting people to drink that product. One has to do with production, the other with merchandising. In those years, the bottlers of Coca-Cola were hipped on production.
Well, if you ever get out to my part of the country, I want you to stop in and see a real plant. Why, I've got the neatest operation.
Yeah, we know,
Plant inspector said so.
Well, I know how you feel. I'm mighty proud of my new layout.
Everything's just about perfect. Gas pressure, syrup throw.
How about your new soaker?
Fine, fine. Why, those bottles come out shining. Just like everything else around the place.
All this talk about plants and equipment was really talk about standards. In those years, the bottlers of Coca-Cola did some headwork on bottling standards. And some other men of Coca-Cola did some headwork on manufacturing standards. In those years, each one of our manufacturing plants established a modernly equipped laboratory. Graduate food chemists were employed to analyze each ingredient that goes into the making of Coca-Cola. Each ingredient. And each finished batch of syrup had to measure up to certain set standards before it was shipped to any bottler of Coca-Cola. Bottling standards, manufacturing standards. Don't they all add up as answers to obligations? Obligations to the people who spend their nickels for Coca-Cola? Of course they do. In our advertising, we promised a drink that was healthful, palatable, and uniform. And inside our plants and laboratories, we did the kind of work that backed up that promise. Those were the big years. And with them, we grew big. But we realized that bigness is also a responsibility. We realized that bigness is only justified by better performance. It's just head work and horse sense that tells you to meet your obligations to the years at hand. Meet your obligations. Keep your promises. Put feet on your dreams. That's the way to assure continued growth. That's the way to build a business. And for such a business, there's always heritage. There's always future. And there's always tomorrow. That was true back there in the 20s. And if you're thinking, like I'm thinking, you're thinking it's just as true today. Today? Oh, yes, I'd almost forgotten about those headlines. Extra, extra, worry all about it. I'd almost forgotten those big years known as the 20s didn't start out so big. Those 20s started out with the Depression, too. Only we didn't call it a depression in those years.
Things just aren't normal now. But we'll get back all right. We'll get back to normalcy.
Say, aren't you Jed Hawley's boy?
That's right. I'm Ben Hawley.
Well, you look mighty down in the mouth. What's wrong?
When you see an ex-soldier sitting on a park bench, what's usually wrong?
No job?
No job.
Well, buck up. You'll find something.
Keep smiling. Just keep smiling.
Yeah, keep smiling. I know.
It was right after the war, remember? Right after the war. The boys came back from somewhere in France, and I remember the parade in our town, the Victory Parade. The plant was on Juniper Street then, and...
Come on, Bill, unless you can see it better, come in here. You can see it better. Ellie, watch the parade. Here. Come on, Larry, it's the parade. Oh, they're coming down Juniper. Come on.
Yeah, here they come.
Come on, Larry.
Oh, girl.
Is it all right if I tear up the telephone book?
No, it isn't all right if you tear up the telephone book.
They tore him up in New York City. I saw it in the movies.
This isn't New York City.
There's Harry.
There's George. Hey, George! 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 Hey! Hey! Attaboy!
As he died to make them holy, let us die to make them free. While God is marching.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
The boys didn't all come back. Some of the boys were still somewhere in France. Ellie's young man was with them in that somewhere. Ellie's young man was an honor roll name on the wall in our plant. A business is like a family, if you know what I mean.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
What are you worrying about now, Larry?
Do you know the United States is at war? Do you realize the government is rationing sugar?
I did see something about it in the headlines.
Those headlines. Those headlines. I don't know what the world's coming to.
Are you worrying about the world or just the sugar shortage?
Both. We'll never survive this war. Coca-Cola, the country, or any of us.
Hiya, Joe.
Hello, Sam. What's on your mind?
All these soldiers in town, they've cleaned drunk my dad out of Coca-Cola.
Okay, Sam, I'll send over a couple of cases.
Have you seen Grover?
Uh-huh.
Gosh, it's a swell uniform he's got. Wished I had a uniform like Grover's. Where's Miss Ellie?
Mr. Wesley gave her the day off.
I bet I know why. You want to know something? Miss Ellie's mighty sweet on Grover.
Run along, Sammy, please. Don't you see I'm busy?
Bye.
Grover, darling, I'm frightened.
Now, Ellie. Remember you said you weren't going
Yes,
to...
I know. I said I wouldn't cry, and I'm not crying. It's just... Oh, darling, I love you so very much.
Don't you worry. Why, it'll all be over soon. And I'll be back. Back driving that old truck for Jim Wesley. And you'll quit that job in the office. We'll get married, have a home, and... The long trail that leads back through the years isn't always a comfortable journey. Those war years were dark years. But we had faith, faith in the future, faith that we would come through, faith that if this country didn't remain a country, didn't survive, then no country on earth would survive. Faith. No battle is won without it.
2 bottles of Coca-Cola.
Yeah?
Make sure it's Coca-Cola. All them bottles look pretty much alike.
Not now, they don't.
Is that Coca-Cola?
Yes, sir. And that's the brand new bottle for Coca-Cola. The hobble skirt bottle. They patterned it after the hobble skirt Betty wears.
The hobble skirt bottle. Pretty nifty, huh?
I'll take the hobble skirt.
I'll take Betty.
Thank you, boys.
Hiya, fellas. Hey, what are you all dressed up for?
We're rowing up the river on a picnic.
Picnic, eh? You taking along some bottles of Coca-Cola?
We're doing the rowing.
The girls are going to bring the victuals. Oh, but no picnic's complete unless you bring along some hobble-skirt bottles.
There's no way to keep Coca-Cola cold on a picnic.
Easiest thing in the world. You're rowing a boat, huh? Well, just loop some knots in the rope to some bottles of Coca-Cola and trail them along in the water. That'll keep them cold.
We'll talk it over with the girls.
Hiya, Mr. Tompkins.
Say, How much Coca-Cola are you bringing in here?
24 bottles.
24 bottles?
Why, you need 'em, Mr. Tompkins. Well, you've only got 4 or 5 left.
Grover, do you know what date this is?
Yes, sir. Saturday, September the 1st.
Yeah, and Monday's Labor Day. Why, if I took them 24 bottles, I'd have 'em sitting around till spring. I've been handling Coca-Cola for Jim Wesley ever since he went in business.
I remember. I was in grammar school then.
Well, then you remember I never sold any Coca-Cola after cold weather sets in.
Yes. And I remember wishing you did.
Why?
Well, because I got thirsty in cold weather just the same as I did in hot weather. When I got thirsty, I thought of Coca-Cola.
Grover, you're trying to sell me something.
Well, that's right, Mr. Tompkins. I am. But I feel it's to your advantage to be sold. The reason you haven't sold Coca-Cola after the cold weather sets in is because you've stopped featuring Coca-Cola. Now, if you kept this tub out here after Labor Day, you'd find folks would keep right on buying after Labor Day.
A few weeks, maybe.
All winter long.
Now, listen, Grover. Listen to reason. I can't keep that tub out here all winter. Where to put my stove?
Well, you can move the tub over a little. And when these birds come in and sit around the stove, well, they can just reach right over and have themselves a bottle of Coca-Cola. You know, folks can get mighty thirsty just sitting around a fire. If you've got something that answers that thirst, well, that means more money in your cash drawer.
Do you expect me to buy ice for this tub all winter?
No, you can just chop some away from the front door.
Okay. Okay, you're the doctor. But only till Thanksgiving. I don't believe there's a man living that'll drink Coca-Cola after Thanksgiving.
The pioneers in this business had battles aplenty. And one of the biggest battles was the Battle of Labor Day. The battle to make this business a year-round business. You may think Grover there was slightly high pressure in his merchandising methods. I don't look at it that way. To me, it was faith shining through that boy. He believed in the rightness and goodness of Coca-Cola. That faith was so much a part of that pioneer, he couldn't help talking it morning, noon, and night.
Well, so you've come back for Coca-Cola to take on that picnic.
Well, not exactly.
The girls are bringing the fiddles. And you're bringing the Coca-Cola. Fine.
Coca-Cola? Oh, that's a wonderful idea.
I don't know.
Come on, be a sport. Put your hand in your pocket.
All right.
What's going on out here?
I just sold some bottles of Coca-Cola for you.
Well, now.
And by the way, folks, anytime this winter you get to feeling thirsty, you can stop right in here at Mr. Tompkins and enjoy this delicious and refreshing drink.
I'll never forget the day Grover came to work for me. It was the day I went out to buy that truck.
Well, Mr. Westlake, got the order all made out. All you have to do is sign.
You seem pretty sure that I'm going to buy this truck.
That's right.
What makes you so sure?
Because you're a man who believes in the future, Mr. Westlake.
Tomorrow, huh?
Yes, sir. Always tomorrow.
An awful lot of nickels would have to change hands before I could pay for this truck. Maybe I'd better wait a spell.
Waiting won't make the nickels change hands. This truck will do that, because this truck is a means of getting oftener to the places where the nickels are spent. The oftener you get to your dealers, the more you can talk to them about selling more Coca-Cola. Now, you want to sell more Coca-Cola, don't you?
Why, sure.
You want your flow of nickels to get bigger and bigger all the time, don't you?
Sure, sure.
Very well, then. Sign here.
You know, there's just one thing you overlooked. I don't know how to drive a truck.
Why, there's nothing to it. I'll show you how.
I don't know. It looks mighty complicated.
Why, there's nothing to it,
How would you like to drive it for me?
What do you mean?
I'm offering you a job.
What?
You said this truck would sell more Coca-Cola.
That's right, it will.
No, the man in the truck will do the selling. You believe the things you just said, don't you?
Of course I believe him.
All right, then. You're hired. Morning, Larry. What are you worrying about this morning?
You know perfectly well what I'm worrying about. Bills.
Why don't you pay them?
Why don't I? You know just as well as I do that we haven't enough money to...
All right. Just sort out those we can't pay, and after a while I'll get off some letters to them.
Oh, why did we have to move up here on Juniper Street? Why did you have to invest in all that machinery? How long do you expect to stay in business if you don't meet your obligations?
Not very long. That's why I bought that new machinery.
Talk sense, Jim. Please talk sense.
All right. I moved up here on Juniper Street. I bought that new machinery. Because if I want to stay in business, I've got to meet my obligations to the people who spend their nickels for Coca-Cola. I've got to see to it that Coca-Cola is bottled according to fixed standards.
Hey, boss, there's someone out here asking for you.
Another bill collector.
No, this here's a lady.
That must be Miss Smith, Joe. Show her in, will you?
All right.
Who's Miss Smith?
My new secretary.
Your new... Jim Wesley, have you gone out of your...
But, Larry, all bottlers have secretaries now. When I was in the convention in Atlanta, we...
Atlanta. So, that's where you got your idea.
Good morning, Miss Smith.
Good morning.
Oh, this is Mr. Larrabee.
Good morning, Mr. Larrabee.
Good morning.
For the present, Miss Smith, you can sit right here at my desk. I won't have much use for it for the next 3 months. After a while, maybe we'll get one of those special typewriter desks.
Don't count on that too heavily, Miss Smith. We may not be in business after another 3 months.
May I take your hat? You won't have to worry about anything around here, Miss Smith. Mr. Larrabee does that for all of us.
I think I'm going to like this job. If you like, I'll dust off your desk.
Miss Smith.
Yes, Mr. Larrabee?
I may as well tell you right off. I do not approve of women working in an office.
But why, Mr. Larrabee?
I think a woman's place is in the home, and I'm thankful you won't be with us very long.
You mean you don't think Mr. Westlake will be in business?
I mean, I'm perfectly aware of why young women take jobs in offices.
Why is it?
It's the modern method of getting a man.
Well, what makes you think I'll, get a man, as you call it?
Because you're so pretty.
Say, did you hear the story about the panic?
Which one?
The one about why is a panic like a picnic?
Heck, yes. They told that one back in 1893. This panic of 1907 isn't going to be any picnic.
Don't you think maybe folks have always said that? When times weren't normal, when things were kind of depressed?
Maybe so, maybe so.
It seems to me that if we bear down, press, push, put out effort, we can lick any trial that comes along.
Say, what do you think of this new advertising campaign?
Oh, it's something, I'll tell you.
Especially these oilcloth signs.
Put out enough of them, and we'll ride out of this panic all right.
Why, we'll be putting on extra wagons.
Putting on extra men.
Hiring private secretaries.
Yesterdays. Cheerful, glorious yesterdays. It was something more than luck that brought us up through the years, though Lady Luck had a lot to do with it. The goodness and rightness of Coca-Cola was there from the start. It was truly delicious and refreshing. People from all walks of life, on any old street, whoever they were, whatever they did, wherever they might be, people liked Coca-Cola. It's the single thing I know of that people can taste again and again, and more, and never grow tired of. Coca-Cola is a repeater, so much a repeater that when the trademark was questioned, the Supreme Court of the United States upheld Coca-Cola as a single thing from a single source and well known to the community. We were lucky. But if luck hitched our wagons to this star, faith kept them hitched. I was just coming in to see you. I hope you've been thinking about that little proposition we talked about the other day.
You mean the loan?
Yes, did you fix it up for me all right?
Well, you see, Jim, this country is going through a kind of a panic now.
I'll be good for it. I've got my business and...
It's a one-horse business.
It won't always be one horse, Mr. Peyton. Someday it'll be right up here on Main Street.
Well, I hope you're right. But I'm afraid I can't risk the bank's money on dreams.
Dreams?
Yes. You're a dreamer, Jim. You're always thinking about tomorrow. Always tomorrow. And, well, you come back on some future tomorrow, and then maybe...
On some future tomorrow, you'll be coming to me, Mr. Peyton. You'll come to me asking for something or other.
In that case, I'll apologize to you, Jim. I'll say, I'm sorry I didn't give you this loan. Good luck, Jim.
Faith, that inward something that makes a risk a sound investment. In the early years of this business, the bottlers of Coca-Cola risked aplenty. It wasn't much they risked when you add it all up and measure it by today. But in those yesterdays, it was everything. The pioneers in this business risked their all.
Oh, dear, oh, dear.
What's the matter, Larry?
I don't know why I ever started working for you.
Because this is a great business. Why, someday you...
Someday. Don't start singing that tune, Jim Wesley.
There's a great future in this business, Larry.
I'm not thinking of the future. I'm thinking of today, now. Now, all I can see is...
What we've got?
Yes, what we have got. Second-hand equipment, bottles that break every time...
That's the difference between you and me, Larry. You know, life is like a piece of chicken wire. Two men are looking at it. One sees only the wire. The other sees the holes between the wire. That's you and me. You see what we have got, and I see what we haven't got. You see the present, and I try to see the future. Oh, we'll go a long ways together, Larry, you and I, for we're like two legs of a compass. You're the firm leg, and I'm the leg that spreads out, reaching always for more and more and still more. That's the story of this business. And I hope that the more and more and more that was yesterday will help us to see the more and more and still more that is tomorrow. Always tomorrow.
Behind this closed door, a young man is engaged in an experiment so world-shaking, so secret, it can't be kept from his little sister. But what is it? Take Steve's word for it, it's a soda-making process. Well, it could be, I suppose, tubes and a bright-colored liquid. But beware of curiosity, Kathy. Now you will have to be the first to sample it. Wait, the experiment may not be wasted. Kathy has an idea. Disappointment is a bitter potion, Steve, but don't feel badly because your sister is writing a letter to the Hoffman Beverage Company.
My brother Steve is very smart about chemistry. He can make almost anything except soda. That is sure hard. Could you help him, please? How do you make your fruit drinks? They are so good.
The answer was an invitation from the Hoffman Beverage Company. Dear Kathy, thank you very much for your letter and your interest in Hoffman Beverages. We would certainly like to help your brother if we can, but the answer is a long one. However, since you don't live very far from our plant, how would you and Steve like to pay us a visit and see the whole thing for yourself? All of Hoffman's nearly half a century of experience going into the making of a delicious bottled beverage. Thousands of bottles, hundreds of thousands of bottles. Enormous machinery, tremendous machinery, and so very complicated you don't know where to begin to look. A good place to start is where Hoffman starts, with fresh fruit like these mouth-watering raspberries, or vanilla beans for rich, smooth-tasting cream soda. Or the real ginger root, just as it's delivered by nature for the famous pale, dry ginger ale. For nature knows best about flavor, and it's a far-reaching world of flavor to which Hoffman goes in search of the finest that nature has to offer. That careful search extends from our own western peaks to the lofty mountains of other continents, to the green, rolling slopes of tropical islands. If you want the finest and know where to look for it, you must travel thousands of miles to the far corners of the earth, to the world's pantry of berries, fruits, herbs, and spices, and freshness. From the hot plains of Africa to the West Indies, from Mexico to Madagascar goes the search for taste. Pure cane sugar of the Caribbean to be blended with vanilla, birch and arrowroot, sassafras and anise. From the ports of many nations comes the rich harvest, the goodness of which they are proudest. Each land has something to offer, and each supplies its best. From our own country, pour forth the very best berries and fruits. Thirst-quenching cherries, selected with the greatest care at their peak of ripeness. Juicy, health-giving oranges, tasting as rich as they look. Tangy, clean-tasting lemons. The entire world pours forth its goodness for our enjoyment. The best of it all for Hoffman quality beverages. Now, when you squeeze fresh, ripened fruits, you expect juice to taste like what it is. And that goes for a fresh fruit beverage, too. And the best way to be sure is to take a sample and analyze it. The giant fruit presses get the same result as the simple squeezer, but in a much bigger way. Instead of a glassful, a river of full ripened juice flows out. A small portion of it to be taken to the specially equipped laboratory for checking and testing. Then it is carefully mixed into a perfect recipe for the beverage, a job for an expert. This man has been blending Hoffman recipes for 25 years. He knows from long experience just what each flavor should taste like. Just a little more of another ingredient to perfect the balance. The blend must be exact to meet his taste. The blend must also look right. The true clean color of a pure drink must gleam through the bottle. The big recipe bottles themselves have to be sterile clean, just as every other piece of equipment at the Hoffman Company plants. These bottles are used to carry the sample on to the critical testing stage. It is the point at which the blend will be standardized so that each and every bottle will taste as delicious as the other. There's no room for guesswork. With modern precise equipment, trained Hoffman technicians can measure anything that might affect the quality and flavor of the final product. This is a test for acidity. Every sample is analyzed in the Hoffman laboratory through every stage of the process. Here, a technician is checking for richness of body and flavor. Just as color, too, can be measured scientifically, so every other quality can be controlled from beginning to end. Taste demands that it be exact. We always get back to taste, the right taste, the final human test for flavor. The trained palate of an expert can judge it to a fine degree. Although the ordinary clean water that Steve and Kathy pause to drink is good water, it's not good enough to be used until it is made beyond a doubt absolutely pure and sterile. At the Hoffman plant, water is treated time and again to reach laboratory specifications. After pre-filtering, it is chilled and then sent again through shiny pipes to carbon purifiers. They remove any possible traces of odor. And then, yes, again, through other filters so dense that even bacteria can't pass. In this two-story high room are the big blending tanks, the great stainless steel tanks where sugar syrup is blended with the many flavors in just the right proportion. It must match exactly the recipe which has been tested and approved by the laboratory. The syrup gushing up into the tank has already been heat-treated, filtered, and tested. There's an important reason for all of this emphasis on purity at Hoffman. When the fruit juices, extracts, and other fine natural ingredients are mixed with the syrup here, there will be no preservatives or artificial flavoring added. Each bottle of Hoffman beverage can be opened, a cool, satisfying drink poured, the bottle corked, placed back in the refrigerator, and after 48 hours, it will still be as fresh and bubbly. The reason it will stay that way is because air has been removed from the water to prepare it for carbonization. The fact is that once water is free of air, it will more readily absorb carbon dioxide, the bubbles, and hold them longer. The beverage is now completely carbonated and blended. So, a final taste, and we're ready for the bottles. But when the bottles arrive in their cases, they have a long way to go. They must be made clean and sterile, just as sterile as the ingredients and the machinery which is used in the processing and bottling. Now the bottles go to be soaped and then washed in a strong, hot detergent solution. Washed 6 separate times. And as if that weren't enough, they are then flushed and brushed inside and outside, over and over again with sterile water. All of this time, the bottles are carried upside down by the machine so that every last drop of water is drained from them by the time they reach the point where they must pass inspection. No trim and polished soldier ever had to pass a more searching inspection. 2 inspections. 1 minor demerit means step out of line. The filling machine fills each bottle exactly as required. Caps on, then. And stand ready to be counted. This final testing chamber catches any unable to withstand heat, cold, and pressure changes, while the rest move on. Move on to receive their Hoffman label, their final proud badge of quality. One that tells the world that bottled here is a delicious beverage of pure flavor in its finest form. This is the final roll call. The packing of the bottles into cases. Even that is done automatically. They're on their way now, on the final stage of a journey that began in many lands and climates. It began with nature giving her precious fruit, berry, herb, and spice flavors. It depended on conscientious care in selecting only the best. Then at the Hoffman plant, it meant painstaking, precise blending under sterile and scientifically perfect conditions. The result? Beverages that can meet the most critical demand of perfection. Ordinarily, this would be the end of Tales of Hoffman. But wait. This story began in Steve's homemade laboratory, where, despite his recent failure, he appears still trying to invent a good-tasting beverage. Maybe he's learned a secret or two. Good, delicious. Well, now, that's some invention Steve has there. Uh-oh, a bottle of Hoffman. You cheated. That's no secret. Anyone can get the finest that way. Because Hoffman, you see, is the finest.
There are 41,000 square miles, 8,000 food stores in the Southern California area served by PIA. All the way from Santa Barbara to the Mexican border, from Santa Monica to the Mojave Desert. It doesn't matter if you use your own sales force or a broker. You can use all the help you can get. You know, this isn't like Philadelphia or Chicago or other towns where you ship in your carloads, unload them, get them into the warehouse of a few chains, and you've covered 70 to 80% of the market. There is no monopoly here by any 1, 2, 10, or 20 chains. These are all big chains, and all have their own list of approved items. So you must be in all of them to get your share of the market. And to make matters worse, or better, the growth goes on and on. There's a new supermarket opening here every 3 days, really. No wonder they call this the supermarket capital of the world. And take a look at one of these supermarkets. Big, huh? Much bigger than most new stores, serving far more shoppers and stocking far more grocery products. An average of over 7,000 items, with new products added every day. Some competition, which means a tremendous battle for that shelf space. And there's no simple way to win this battle, because this market area is just different, and the manufacturer who doesn't understand the factual differences is going to get hurt. Obviously, its size and mobility are the major differences of Southern California. This sun-drenched Tomorrowland has more cars than 40 states have people, which is why this fellow, a manufacturer salesman, needs special help in this area. The scene is a traffic jam, Southern California style.
Don't leave. Think of the children.
The poor guy is willing to sell, but he's no magician. By necessity, his territory is just too big. His marketing problems are different here, too. Which brings us to the next major difference in the Southern California market, the food store manager. We read in our grocery magazines, he's king today in many areas, even more so in Southern California.
Oh, Bill, it's good to see you again. Say, I was just checking your shelf stock, and you're out of 2 of my flavors. Now, all 4 flavors...
Nobody forces a manager to handle any particular product or size. His store sells over $2.25 million a year, and it's his to run. He's subjected to only minimum headquarters control, and for very sound reasons. He orders what he wants and thinks he can sell at a good profit.
But you're out of 2 of my sizes tomato sauce.
Are you sure of that?
Yes, come with me and I'll show you.
I'd like to see it.
The product that wasn't there. That's hard to sell, isn't it? The home office approves and recommends items, but the store manager usually decides if and how much to order, where to put it on the shelf, how many facings you should have, everything. The individual store manager seems like a good guy to keep in touch with, doesn't he? And frequently. Your entire advertising and market investment is at stake right here. No matter how good your product is, it has to get on and off the shelf to mean a profit to you. Which brings us back once again to PIA and what they can do for you. In the store, on the shelf. Now, just what is PIA? How did it begin? How did it develop? Well, like all functional businesses, it was born of a good idea and a need. The good idea? On-the-spot advertising. Advertising space for sale right where the buying is done, on the shelf. This is the last mile, the moment of truth. She's left her TV set, her radio, her newspapers at home, and has just passed her last outboard poster. Your advertising message right here, changed once a month if you'd like, has to be a good idea. Part of a store-wide directory system. Shoppers like it, and so does supermarket management. But soon PIA developed another in-store service, specialized merchandising, stocking, reordering, improving location, correct pricing. And today, PIA has 40 highly trained merchandising specialists and 7 supervisors covering 7 counties of the Southern California market. They work in every major chain, in over 1,300 supermarkets, whose sales represent approximately 80% of the market. This is Derek Lovett, one of those 40 PIA fieldmen, a University of Hawaii graduate, 10 years in the grocery field. Derek does his share of driving too, but since his PIA territory is geographically small by Southern California standards, he'll spend very little of his workday behind the wheel. All the supermarkets Derek works are in the same chain, giving vertical coverage. So when he walks into a store, he knows their policies and personnel, and they know him.
Good morning, Frank.
How are you, Derek?
How are you today?
Just fine.
Good. How was your trip up north?
A man who knows the ins and outs, the do's and don'ts of a chain, can best serve that chain and the PIA clients.
Is that whisk moving for you any better in that new location?
Yes, it's doing a lot better than it did in the old location.
He has a natural rapport with the people, and this pays off too. But they welcome him not because he's an old buddy, but because they know he's there to work.
It is.
Well, maybe I'd better get to work instead of talking about it.
Let's face it, Derek is extra manpower, and no busy manager sneers at help, expert union help. Today, as every day, Derek will cover only 3 stores, so he'll spend 2.5 hours here. His entire PIA territory is only 30 stores. First off, he services the directory system. Each fixture is checked, the headings double-checked, and any new fixture cards installed. This is PIA's entree into the supermarket, and they take good care of it. In the cosmetics section, a PIA client is Jergens Lotion. Derek's trusty duster is put to use, and more than that, his trained eye. Are all items correctly priced? If not, he corrects the error. Passing the produce department, Derek checks a display installed on his last visit and repairs a torn display piece. Routine? Yes, but it all adds up to constant merchandising at the store level. And remember, Derek will spend 5 hours a month in this store. And because he, like all PIA fieldmen, is a member of the Retail Clerks Union, it will be time well spent. Another routine PIA service is the very basis of merchandising, checking low in stock and out of stock conditions. That 2-pound Wondra looks low. Note, check the storeroom for another case of Wondra. In the dessert section, Derek is about to find another problem, a poor selling location. His client, Knox Gelatin, is in the corner. And look, this scarf display is hiding it as well, which means when that woman shopper rounded the corner, this is what she saw. Or didn't see, if you're Knox. Check the store manager about a better selling position. In the refrigerator section, Derek checks and rotates his perishables and moves any interlopers out of the way. Derek will find very few out-of-date items here. He rotated this same section just 2 weeks ago, and his constant vigilance pays off. To paraphrase an old saying, to the victors belong the profits, to the losers belong the spoils. A new PIA client is Sarah Lee, and Derek decides to work on this situation. Little items stacked on top of big items, and 4 authorized items the store doesn't even stock. Note, discuss with the manager more freezer space to spread out display. In the liquor department, Derek checks to see that the Smirnoff vodka is still the way he arranged it, all the sizes grouped together. Smirnoff's is a well-advertised brand name, but there's no magic of advertising that can overcome the absence of merchandising at the retail level. And another merchandising fact of life is demonstrated by this hue blind display. If you can't see it, you can't buy it. This display piece is so tucked away, you practically have to run into it to see it. Check with manager for front positioning. In the pet food section, Derek works the Puss in Boots cat food display. Understandably, Derek feels great pride here. A few short weeks ago, this was the Puss in Boots section in this store. Product in sizes so scattered, the Puss in Boots labels were lost in the crowd, plus 4 missing items just not stocked. Here, Derek won a battle of the shelf. Now all the Puss in Boots items are consolidated, which is more eye-catching from a Puss in Boots standpoint. This or this, you know which sells more. Aurora Tissue is a PIA client. Derek already has it positioned next to a leader, but that sales leader has 4 facings. Aurora only 3. And the colors mixed at that. Today's the day to talk to the manager about a new facing. But there'll be no big problem here in the detergent section. Derek won this battle already in behalf of Lever Brothers and Whisk. The problem was that clerks were stocking Whisk with the light-duty detergents just because it was liquid. But thanks to Derek's PIA merchandising, it's now where it belongs. With the heavy-duty detergents. His rounds complete, Derek discusses his product improvement notes with the store manager.
So it's okay to order that 2-pound one?
Yeah, if it's low on the shelf, you can order some.
Okay, fine. And I'll do that Aurora facing, okay?
Okay.
And about that Sarah...
And because of his long experience, he gives valid reasons for his suggestions. Ease of stocking, of ordering, a color break, but most important, increased sales and profit. If Derek doesn't always convince the manager today is the day, he pre-sells for a future change or plants some merchandising ideas. Constant follow-through, hours of accumulated effort, and it pays off.
Try.
Okay, fine. I think it'll do a job for you.
Pays off in many ways. It's sales insurance to have someone always checking and double-checking to see that your product is in the store. From the stockroom comes a case of Aurora Tissue for the newly won facing. And Derek starts rearranging the section to put in that one more line of product. Now, it's a lot of work. Is it worth it? Well, think about this. Derek has added 1 facing of product. That means another case on the shelf. Now, if each of the PIA fieldmen added 1 more facing of Aurora Tissue in all the store's PIA services, that would mean 1,300 more cases. Yes, 1 added facing adds up to a carload of sales. Now, I'm sure that you're familiar with this progressive grocer study, the challenge of change. Look at this. More facings, more sales. When facings were increased from 27 to 34 in a display of 10 canned vegetable items, 27% more sales. And look at this. Preferred position pays off. Sales up 24% when the same 9 items were relocated into a more accessible location. More accessible location. This looks better, doesn't it? Knox has moved out of the corner, out from behind a display piece that all but hid it. Now look what the same woman shopper sees when she comes around that same corner. Preferred position pays off. And statistics also support the fact that full shelf conditions pay off too. Take a look at how Derek leaves the Betty Crocker display, stocked and faced. Looks a little more saleable than this, doesn't it? One man works in 1 supermarket. A display is moved so people can see it. A new product goes from this to this. The manager okays an order for authorized items he has never stocked. A low-in-stock condition is noted, and an order is entered in the market order book, and so much more. And you can multiply what Derek has done in this 1 store today for PIA clients by 120. That's the number of stores visited daily by the PIA field force. The field troops are backed by an experienced organization.
Good afternoon, PIA.
PIA headquarters provide the field personnel with everything they need and see that the field information gets to the client to provide him constant market analysis. Want information about a competitor's pricing? 1,300 answers to any client question. From the field reports comes information that is invaluable. The sizes available in any given market, the facings, the unit quantity, what products you're displayed next to. Basically, any information a client wants on a regular basis. The statistics add up and take shape. The computers are put to work. The final result, a monthly report to you that profiles just how you're doing in Southern California. Your strong areas, your weak areas. To tell a marketing man how to use such information is like telling a baseball player how to use a bat. We won't even try. Another PIA strong point is the rigidly close supervision of the field personnel by an outstanding staff of supervisors. They work daily in the field with their men and constantly combine their thoughts and experiences to strengthen client services.
Will you make this note? Before you leave tonight, let's outline our problems and submit them to the office so we will know where we stand when we get this project finished.
Number one seller.
Once a month, Derek and all other field personnel come in out of the field for a headquarters briefing session. New merchandising techniques are discussed, client promotions and products are introduced, problems reviewed, and on occasion, a new client explains his objectives to the men who will work the shelves.
So what we're striving for, as we've said, is the consolidation of all three items on the shelves, and I think that, with your assistance and our product, we'll have a very successful venture. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Gentlemen, you have your Heinz objective sheets. I would like to re-emphasize 2 points, 2 important points. The best shopping position and the trouble zone. Please bear this in mind when servicing these products. Are there any questions? Ray.
Are all 3 Heinz ketchup items authorized in every chain?
Authorization lists will be issued by your territory managers today at the close of the meeting. Are there any further questions?
What is the drop ship minimum?
Actually, Derek, there is no drop shipment. But if a dealer desires a quantity, notify the office and we in turn will notify Heinz. Yes.
What is the percentage?
PIA management does its homework daily, too, to keep clients, to get clients.
Good.
You have to perform and keep performing.
Progressing real nicely with that account, and also a very nice increase in item count. They have 80-some%.
The chairman of the board of PIA is Jim Donahoe.
Potential of 100.
The president, Don Juan.
That they've got the sales to go along with it. That's right.
The report you
And the man in charge of the field personnel who actually do the job is the vice president of sales and merchandising, Sam Taylor.
You bet. Bye.
Well, Sam, our job in this film is to explain and sell PIA. Let's try here to anticipate and answer some of the questions asked by client prospects.
I think it's a great idea.
For instance, what can PIA do for the manufacturer that his own sales force or broker cannot do?
All things being equal, nothing. But things aren't equal here. For example, there are strong union restrictions in California that seriously curtail a salesman to retail level. Furthermore, this is a marketing area of staggering proportions. We're talking about large volume supermarkets that require constant and frequent coverage. And we're talking about vast areas. For instance, a salesman calling on headquarters of 2 chains, Hughes and Food Giant, would have to drive 50 miles in order to make those 2 calls. And that's not just a remote situation. And we're talking, too, about fantastic and growing populations. Look, this area, the San Fernando Valley, it has 150 supermarkets, each doing in excess of $2.25 million per year. From the standpoint of population, you can drop the city of Baltimore right in this area. And you know how many men it would take to cover a city like Baltimore. In this South Coast area, Long Beach and vicinity, you can drop the population of San Francisco. And here, Washington, D.C.'s population would match this area, the Adams-Inglewood area. And here in the Alhambra area, you can put Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Well, those are pretty impressive figures. The populations of Baltimore, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., and Grand Rapids. And there's lots left, isn't there?
It's impossible for the average sales force to get the job done as effectively as they would like. PIA supplements the manufacturer's sales force and fills a vital gap for them.
Why wouldn't a manufacturer prefer to add a few men to his own sales force rather than hire PIA?
It's not economically profitable. For example, 2 added men at 8 calls a day would add 160 calls over a 10-day period. In the same period, PIA men would add 1,300 calls.
And companies with large sales staffs use PIA, right?
Yes, our clients include some of the largest. General Mills, Quaker Oats, Lever Brothers, and we have many broker-served clients too. Actually, every manufacturer can use our help. Even the leaders have problems.
Well, what sort of people work for PIA?
Well, Carl, the average PIA man in the field is about 33 years old. He's married, he buys his own home, has 1 4/10 children, and most importantly for the question, has nearly 10 years in the merchandising business at store level and with PIA.
And of course, Sam, the key question on everyone's mind, what does the PIA service cost?
Well, this depends on the nature of the product and the nature of the problem. One thing is certain, though, our cost per store call is considerably less than the manufacturer's cost.
Well, now, Sam, can you prove that you really do the job?
Very definitely. Each month, our clients receive a supermarket data and status report. In effect, this is a report card on how well we are accomplishing the client's objectives at store level. This is proof on a frequent and continuous basis. And as I said, some of our clients have been with us for over 21 years.
Sam, do you really get all this cooperation from supermarkets and teamwork from the manufacturers and brokers?
For an answer to our last question, what do people in the industry think of PIA, we went right to the source.
Okay, goodbye. The directory system is a service to us and our customers. PIA installs it and maintains it. It pleases our customers, and anything that pleases our customers, of course, pleases us.
Believe me, it takes teamwork to sell in this vast and spread out market. And we're tickled to death to have PIA on our side.
PIA has certainly done a fine job for us, so we stick with them. My own men couldn't possibly be in the stores as often as PIA.
That's the PIA story.
In-store advertising, in-store merchandising, market survey and analysis, all part of the PIA package.
PIA can help you and your sales force win the battle of the shelf. Can help put your product where it belongs.
Hey, Mary. Wake up.
Hey, come on, beautiful, wake up.
For Mary, the day started like any other day. She got Mike's breakfast, did the dishes, and then remembered she had an appointment with the doctor.
Well, good news. You're going to have a baby.
You're sure?
I'm sure.
As you can see, it folds down very easily on top of the buggy.
That's it. The little giant. Oh, what a deluxey buggy for my baby. I'm going to have a... Well, I just wanted to look at one of them.
Well, that's perfectly all right. This is our finest buggy. It has all...
Oh, they can't do that. It's the same one my sister has. You put the price up too high.
When did your sister buy hers?
2 years ago.
Price has gone up 3 times since then.
But it's the same buggy, just the same.
Right over here, we have one that's quite a bit cheaper.
But I don't want another one. I want this one. Why does it have to cost so much?
Well, we have to pay more for it ourselves, and for
Oh,
that...
I think that's mean. Well, I just won't pay that much for it. Oh, and it's such a beautiful buggy. You tell them they're just going to have to sell it cheaper. You tell them that.
Sure. Sure, I'll tell them.
Well, I just found out about it today, Sis. Oh, I'm so excited. Well, I just can't wait to talk to you about it. Isn't it wonderful? Say, why don't you and Fred come on over tonight, huh? Well, I've got some of the cutest little patterns. You know, for knitting, I just...
Wow, look who's here. Come on in. Make yourself at home. Here you are.
I'm so happy. How are you?
Hey, what is this? Maybe you better open this. Huh? What's that? Oh, my golly, for me? Gee, this is swell. This isn't my birthday, though. Hey, now, what do I want with this?
Hey, don't hold it like that. It's for our baby. Why, Mike, don't you want a baby? Mike, you always said you did.
Why, sure. What do you know? Oh, honey, it's wonderful. Look, don't you want to sit down and be comfortable?
Now,
Just
don't
relax.
you be silly. You two go on and sit down, and Gene and I will make some coffee. Huh? Now, go on. I didn't know for sure till the doctor said today, but I bet you'll never guess what I did.
Oh, I bet I can.
What?
I remember what you and I did when we found out about Fred Jr. We went right out and bought a baby buggy. Did you buy one today?
No, but I looked at one.
Oh?
And have I something to say to Fred? You and your bunch of little giant chiselers.
Oh, me? Hey, wait a minute. I only work there.
The price you charge for that buggy, it's robbery. I won't pay it.
Yeah, I know, honey. There's a lot of talk about that, but what can I do about it?
You're in the accounting department. Why don't you make them put the price back where it ought to be?
You know, we may have to get out of the buggy business. Gross sales are way off. And operating costs are way up. Well, our direct costs are...
Double talk. Why don't you talk so I can understand it?
Don't let her get you down, Fred. Mary, nobody can talk plain English about things like that, or some ordinary mutt like me might understand what it's all about. Yeah, it used to be true, Mike, but there's a way of putting it so everybody can understand it.
What, me?
Sure.
Well, and give.
You really want to know?
Oh, now, don't get Fred started.
Oh, but I want to know. Everybody thinks I'm so dumb.
Mary, no, they don't.
Well, about things like this, I don't know from nothing. I want to know why my baby buggy should cost so much. So give.
All right. When you want something, like the buggy, you think of going right down to the store and buying it with money.
So far, so good.
Well, in the old days, when you wanted anything, you had to make it. You had to supply the tools. You had to figure out how to make it. You had to do the work of making it yourself. You were your own customer, right?
Right.
Well, now, suppose Mike were smart enough to do all of that himself. Then how much do you think it would cost to make anything?
Well, I suppose whatever his time was worth.
Now, let's think about that for a minute. Suppose Mike is a pioneer. He's out in the wilderness someplace, and he wants to clear a little piece of land. You know, to build a house for his family to live in. What's he got to work with? He's got himself, his own brains and muscle, his human energy.
And then he's got whatever he could find in nature. Natural resources. Now you put an axe in his hand and he's in business. The better the axe, the less time and effort it'll take to cut down a tree. A saw would be better. A power saw would go still faster. You see what I mean? With all the technical accounting and legal gobbledygook, there are only 3 things involved in the cost of anything, any goods or services.
Only 3?
Yes, and the first is natural resources.
Like the tree.
That's right. You cut down a tree to make lumber. You take some clay and mix it with straw to make bricks. You mine copper and iron ore and coal. These are natural resources.
Yes, but you need more than that.
Oh, you mean Mike?
Sure, the work that Mike does, or I do, in order to make anything. The use of our brains and muscle, our human energy. And then the third thing.
The axe. Or whatever you work with in your job.
Tools. Tools are what get the job done faster and better, and with a lot less human energy. Now today, most of us work in a factory, a mine, or an office. And we've developed our tools a long way from something simple like the axe, but the idea is just the same.
And so the cost of my baby buggy takes in, what'd you say, natural resources.
That's right.
Work.
Human energy.
And tools. So?
Suppose Mike wants to go into the business of making and selling baby buggies. Now, what's the first thing he ought to think about?
Me.
No, she's right. She wants to buy a buggy.
That's right. The first thing Mike has to figure out is how many people want to buy baby buggies. Then he's got to figure out how to make them and how to sell them at a price people would be willing to pay.
Now you're talking. That's just what I was saying. They cost too much.
Well, wait a minute, hold it. We'll get there in a minute, but let's start here. He needs tools. He needs a factory. He needs raw materials, power tools, desks, lockers, adding machines, typewriters, paper clips, everything it takes to produce. Now, where are they going to come from?
Some rich guy.
Like us.
Hey, wait a minute. What are you talking about?
You, Mary, Jane, and me.
Oh, look, I haven't got that kind of money.
You got any insurance?
Yeah.
Got a bank account?
Well...
Most people, about 4 out of 5 have insurance. A lot of people have bank accounts, about 3 out of 5.
You mean I could go to a bank or some big insurance company and borrow the money?
What do you think they do with the money?
They invest it.
Certainly. Now, whose money do you think it is? It's ours, people like us.
Hey, that makes me a capitalist.
Well, what did you think a capitalist was?
Well, I always thought of a capitalist as a big fat guy in striped trousers and a stovepipe hat.
Did you ever look at yourself in a mirror?
I am not fat.
Oh, you're cute. Now, wait a minute. Look, we both saved some money and bought houses, right?
Right.
Now, like your dad. He owns his own house and rents the upstairs, doesn't he?
Well, does that make him a capitalist?
Just what is a capitalist?
Well, anyone who saves some money and puts it to work so and learns something. Like your dad. Now, how does he decide how much rent to charge?
Well, he can't charge what he pleases.
And he can't charge too much or nobody'd rent from him. And then he has to pay taxes and set aside a little for things like papering, painting, repairs. There's always something.
More than that. He hopes to have enough left over to give him a little income. In other words, he charges a competitive price and tries to earn something on his investment.
Well, why not? Dad's retired and he needs the money.
Funny, I never thought of it that way.
Well, it's a free country. I'm only making the point that we're capitalists.
I see, but getting back to the baby buggy business, I still need a factory.
All right. You're the guy who's trying to start a factory. You are management.
Okay, so I'm management. What am I supposed to do first?
First, you'd see an investment banker. If he liked the deal, he'd arrange to issue stock. Then he'd sell this stock to people he knows, who are looking for a good place to put some savings. They're the stockholders. They furnish the money for the tools.
Sounds pretty complicated.
Sure does.
No, it isn't really. You need money. An investment banker knows people with money to invest. He simply arranges to get you and the stockholders together.
Okay. But how do we get together?
Well, maybe I can show you. Now, you just imagine yourself somewhere in an office. You are there as management.
How are you, Mike? I understand you want to get together. How are you, Mike? Yeah, let me tell you about this. That's what I'm here for. I'm looking for a good investment.
For baby buggies, Mary wants one, and a lot of people like her want them. Maybe they do. So what? I've got a plan to make them better and cheaper. It'd be good business. That's what you say. As a guy with money to invest, the only thing I'm interested in is what will the investors get out of it. I got to think about that. Well, I got to have a factory. Look, it makes sense. People have babies every year, every week. Some weeks as many as 40,000 babies are born. They'll all want buggies. It'll be a good, steady business. It'll be a good investment. Sounds pretty good. Let me think it over. There's always a risk in a thing like this. Okay, that's fair enough. I want to build that factory.
Well, Mike is finding out that he isn't an easy guy to do business with when he's on the other side of the fence. But let's suppose that everything goes all right. Now, he's finding out that a necessary part of the cost of any business is the cost of getting the tools. Now, ask yourself this question. Where do tools come from? They always come from an investment, the risking of savings. Whether you're renting the upstairs or buying stock, you expect to get something from it.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
Okay, that's a beginning. Now, the next thing that Mike as management has to think of is bringing the workers and the tools together. You've been in plenty of bargaining sessions, Mike. All right, suppose you're an employee. But you also represent the guys in the new plant. Now, this time, just imagine yourself as a worker. And there you are again as management.
Mike, do you represent the employees in this new plant? That's right. Well, it looks like the boys will have good, steady work. We've got a sweet setup and ought to be able to knock the ears off competition. Setup's pretty good. But how about the boys? This plant's going to make a lot of baby buggies and a lot of dough. The boys feel the wage rate ought to be higher than Little Giants. You're forgetting costs, Mike. I wonder if you're not missing the point. We wouldn't be in business unless our costs are lower, unless we give customers a better buy. Suppose I pass all the savings on to you and to the stockholders. I'm not interested in what you do for the stockholders. Okay, suppose I pass them all on to the boys. Then our prices will be as high as Little Giants. Then we get some business, maybe. And the boys find themselves working 3 days a week. Don't they want steady work? Sure they want steady work. And every dollar they're entitled to. I'm here to see they get a fair shake on wages. And don't forget, we're the guys that buy the buggies, too.
Now are you beginning to see what a problem it is? As a workers' representative, you've got a lot of things on your mind. And as management, you have to remember that a lot of people have risked their money in this enterprise. And you have something else to remember, too. You can price yourself right out of the business, and then everybody loses.
There's something I'd like to get straight. If I was a stockholder, I'd want a return on my money or else.
Or else you'd get somebody else to run the business.
Mm-hmm.
And if that didn't work, you'd pull out entirely if it wasn't too late.
Come on, boys. Let's break it up, huh?
I get what you're driving at.
Come on, honey, you bring the bread.
All right.
You see, Mary, I'm just trying to show you and Mike where the costs come from.
Wait a minute. You mean that when I buy a baby buggy, I have to pay some to the guys who own the tools, the factory, and the guys who work there?
More than that. Tools have to be replaced. They wear out. They have to be kept in shape. In other words, a statement from this factory might read something like this. We received from our customers. There'll be no jobs, no dividends. So that's all you have to work with. Then comes the costs of doing business. First is the cost of goods and services bought from others. Coal to heat the plant. Electricity. Advertising. A lot of things. Then the cost of tools wearing out. Now, most of the machines in this plant are new, but we've got to set aside enough to replace them when they wear out. Then taxes, local taxes, federal taxes, all the direct taxes. This doesn't include taxes that the government will make us withhold from wages, but all corporation taxes must be paid. And then comes the cost of human energy. Wages, insurance, retirement, Social Security, and so on. And last, the return to those who provide the tools, the stockholders. Very simple. You take in so much money from your customers and you divide it up. So much for what you buy outside, so much for the tools you use up and wear out, so much for taxes, so much for employees, wages and benefits, and so much for the use of the tools.
Well, I think I can understand that, but you still didn't explain.
What? Explain what?
how you're going to get the cost of the buggy down so I'll buy it.
Look, Mary, today the cost of government is an important factor in any business. What the government says you pay in taxes, you pay, right?
I'll say.
All right, take the next cost. You can try to be a good buyer, but you have to pay just about so much for a ton of coal and electric light. And don't forget, these materials and services bought outside contain these same 5 costs, taxes, wages, and so on.
You can't expect those guys to work for nothing. They've got to pay taxes, too.
That's right. Okay, going on. You have to maintain tools. You have to replace them if they're out of whack or out of date. So what do you got to work with?
Well, you've got the wages and benefits for the workers, and what you pay the owners, the stockholders.
That's right. Now, in order for you to buy that buggy at a lower price, which of the 5 costs would you cut? The wages to the workers or the payments to the owners? Can you reduce the taxes? Can you pay less for what you buy outside? Do you have to maintain tools?
Well, I wouldn't cut wages.
Well, you've got 5 costs. Which one would you cut?
Maybe the store has the price marked up too high.
Could be, but they'd have to be competitive. They'd be forced to come down.
I should think so.
Let's say the markup is competitive. The factory's tooled up right, and everything is right. But still, the costs make the price too high. Now, that's a tough question. Remember the different points of view.
Well, boys, we have to figure a way to cut our costs. Now, where do we begin?
Take the stockholder.
If some of my savings are in this thing, I'm going to get paid or else. Why shouldn't I? I supplied the tools. Without me, there wouldn't be any factory. Speaking as a worker, I don't care where else you cut. But you're not going to cut wages. You're not going to monkey with benefits either. Get that straight right now. You put me on a tough spot. As management, I've got 5 costs. If I can't cut any of them, how am I going to cut the price of that buggy?
Let's not forget the customer. That's you, Mary.
Well, I still think the price you're asking for the little giant buggy is too high. I want a buggy for my baby, but I don't have to buy it from your company.
Not so long as you have a free choice.
And I have a free choice.
That's right. We're all each other's customers. Mary, what do you think would happen to any business in this country if people weren't willing and able to buy what they produce?
Well, I suppose they go broke.
Happens all the time, but what do you think the answer is?
Well, I don't know, but this much I'll tell you. I'm not going to pay that much for my buggy.
Okay, you're the boss.
All right, while they're talking, let's ask the audience. Here they are, the 5 costs of producing any goods or services. If it were up to you, how would you get the price down on that buggy to give Mary what she wants at a price she's willing to pay? Let's talk about these 5 costs, what they are, and what we can do about them. Let's face it right now.